Hey everyone, and welcome to Geekdom Forecast. And yes, it's been a long time since we have covered something because we were kind of on a vacation or so. But we are back in action, and this time is for Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think everyone knows the story so far. Snyder was unable to complete his initial vision for Justice League, and Joss Whedon took over, and we got Justice League. And after 3 years, 3 to 4 years of fan movements and finally pushing around a few buttons, Zack Snyder's JL is here. And does it hold up to DCEU's long movie catalog? Let's find out. The look and feel of the movie is very much like Man of Steel and BVS, and yes, many of us felt that the 2017 version of Justice League was very disjointed thematically and stylistically because we had two separate directors with their own style and vision. But rest assured, this is Zack Snyder times 10. I mean, the movie, the way it's been shot is very much like 300, Watchmen, and everything all coming together, and it's just a visual treat for your eyes. And also, one thing I would love to say is that here, the movie, the way it's been shot, the way it's been done, it's just how initially DC had planned its movies until the BVS critical reception when it was not that good. Of course, the powers that be had to change a few gears and they had to introduce comedic elements in Justice League. Hence, the movie felt a little disjointed. And of course, one thing I would again love to say, this is DC in all its glory. It's unapologetically true in its form. It's not trying to be like Marvel. It's not trying to be like anyone else. It's very sincere and it's very, very, very earnest. Storyline wise, the movie is pretty much the same like the previous 2017 Justice League. It's just that there are more added layers, more character development, because the previous one felt that it had a very wafer thin plot. It's just a group of superheroes coming together to stop Steppenwolf from an invasion. But now things are at a bigger scale, the stakes are higher, and you would in fact even empathize for the likes of Steppenwolf, who felt like a very, very hollow character in the previous iteration, but in a weird way, you'll actually feel for Steppenwolf here. Love the fact that Snyder has put clever Easter eggs and sequel setups here and there. Yes, we have heard a lot of rumors that there might not be a next DC movie by Snyder, but hey, restore the Snyderverse as I'm saying this. I think the 2017 version can itself be in its own universe, because although a lot of critics did say that even if this movie does come out, it'll be essentially the same movie with different camera angles and etc etc. But even every camera angle, everything in this movie feels different, 100% different from the previous one. The dialogues are different, the cinematography is different, and this in turn makes it a completely different visual experience altogether. Forget what you've seen there, forget what you see back in 2017, get back to 2021, because this movie delivers in all its way. Now let's talk about probably the biggest hurdle the movie had to face. Its very, very long runtime, which was 4 hours. And initially, people were skeptical if this would actually work, but then guess what? It works. It worked. I mean, I did not get bored. I did not feel like there's just too much for me to take in. It just flowed seamlessly, and it kind of reminded me of Endgame, where we watched it and it flowed seamlessly, because again, there were Marvel had like a 10-year cinematic build-up, but this one, Snyder has nicely put his entire worldview in a 4-hour capsule, and it works perfectly. And I think that's what I wanted to mention about Snyder, is that his idea of DC characters, it's on a mythological level, and to put everything in just a 1 hour 30 minutes or a 2-hour capsule, it just wouldn't work. I mean, just look at Watchmen's Ultimate Edition. Although it fails to deliver the political message which initially the graphic novel was trying to put, but visually it worked and it got some things right. Same thing with Snyder. I think his entire worldview, the Snyderverse can only work in a long, very, very long feature length film or miniseries or episodes, because that's how his style really is. The movie has 6 chapters and one epilogue, and yes, they all are very well connected. The viewer, even he or she, will not be confused and say, okay, I can't understand anything. But this one actually goes, the chapters actually help demarcate the story and break the story into nice little comic miniseries, so that this chapter is finished, so that you can move on to other chapter. This one is done, you can move on to the other one. Kind of felt very much like the Injustice video games, where there were chapters involved everywhere, and that way we could navigate and triangulate the story. And the chapters are just not made for the heck of it. Every edition of that feels relevant. A well debated bone of contention between several geeks is that how comic accurate a TV show or a series really is. Comic accuracy is something which is very well debated by a lot of people. So I ask you one thing: does everything has to be comic accurate for it to be really good, or can the filmmaker take chances with the characters and deliver us with something new, bold, and total badass? And that's the thing with this movie. Most of the characters do things which their comic book counterparts would not do. We can we I think in the end we really want to see these characters finally take a chance, finally go break that box of what they can be more than just, let's say, someone who's a big blue boy scout or someone who's just a brooding dark knight. Things did seem rushed in Justice League, but here, I've said it several times, Snyder has actually taken the chance and fleshed out his world. We get to know more about the Amazons and their culture, and the fact that how there's an extended fight scene with Steppenwolf in itself. And wait, I'm coming to Steppenwolf. Another character I would love to talk about is the importance of Silas Stone. Silas Stone was virtually nothing in the previous one, but here he's so much important to the plot. I think without Silas Stone, this movie would not go much further. Yes, I do have to admit, a lot of this movie is exposition. A lot of things they're going to talk about, do things so that they can take the plot further. And yes, the drama elements, it's there, the character growth, drama, it's there, but then mostly it's full of plot device. But then again, it's I don't have any complaints regarding that. No character here feels like an afterthought. And Ryan Choi, even the importance of Ryan Choi is felt. I mean, he had a minor role compared to most of the, let's say, the star characters, the lead characters, but his importance was also there throughout the movie, and he also had a few witty dialogues. So I really love that as well. And we finally have Darkseid in all his glory, along with Desard. And let me tell you something, Darkseid, he didn't have that much, but I love the fact that they showcased him more than I expected. And by God, Darkseid felt so threatening. I mean, I would personally shit my pants if I see Darkseid than Thanos, because honestly, Darkseid was visually, he was very towering and very, he felt like a threat. I mean, if the sequels get made, and I hope the sequels get made, hashtag restore the Snyderverse, I would love to see Darkseid in all his glory, terrorizing and decimating the entire league. If you want to compare, Thanos wanted the universe to survive through his questionable deeds, but Darkseid is a balls out invader. He's looking for the anti-life equation. He wants the entire world to kneel before him, to crumble before him, because he is a god. And I love the fact that they mentioned that Darkseid is feared in the entire multiverse. Hence, there's lots of there is a huge inspiration from Jack Kirby's Fourth World. I am not going to say much about that because I haven't read it. It's all about Darkseid operating on a multiverse, and the fact that he is almost everywhere, and that he is the biggest baddie ever. Steppenwolf here is again much different to the version that we saw earlier. this Steppenwolf has a backstory. You would actually feel for this Steppenwolf. He's just trying to make things right for Darkseid. He's just trying to gain his confidence again, because apparently something did happen between them, and Steppenwolf here is racked by guilt. Uh, he wants to impress his master again. So hence he's here. He's conquering worlds, and Desard is, my god, Desard kind of reminded me of Ebony more, but Desard is like the true villain here, because he just manipulates and just keeps giving it off to Steppenwolf. Poor guy. I mean, he's just trying to catch a break, but you this doesn't work for him. Snyder has constantly stated that Cyborg is in fact the heart of the movie, and I wholeheartedly agree to that. This, in many ways, is a Cyborg movie. It's his origin story, it's him finally being one with himself. This guy has gone through a big tragedy, and also in this movie, there's also a lot of there's a lot of talk about family and values, and being present in the moment and all that. But Cyborg, man, his powers are also so well defined here. He can manipulate technology at his own will, and I agree to the fact that Cyborg could be one of the strongest beings in the DCEU, and it could potentially, and don't kill me over here, he could potentially rival Superman himself, because there is a scene where they talk about Cyborg, his powers, and how he can control the world's monetary systems and nukes and everything. So that's pretty scary, and at the same time, there's also a very nice, touching scene about him helping out a struggling mother, and he sees her, and then he finally gives her this whole bucket load of cash. And this is that one thing which lacked in the previous Justice League movie, that it didn't have heart. It just had the movie just went on from point A to B to C to D, and then there were no layers to that. But this one, every scene, every dialogue, every thing felt relevant and important to the overall plot point. And the supporting character Silas Stone, without the importance of Silas Stone, without Silas Stone being there in the movie, it wouldn't make sense for Cyborg to do anything. Cyborg's tragedy, his origin story, in fact, it helps move and take the story forward. I had my reservations about Ezra Miller's version of Barry Allen, because in many ways he felt like a Teen Titans version of Wally West. But like I've told previously, what is comic accuracy? And I think filmmakers should also take a chance. Initially, back in 2017 in Justice League, comparisons were made between Miller's version of Flash and Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man from Civil War. But although this version of Barry, he's still a kid. He's still finding his way. He's super excited to be a part of the team. He's a kid in a candy store. He's still a bumbling fool, but he's also had layers to his character. Again, his origin, why he is this hopeful, why he's like this right now, that's very well portrayed through his connection with Henry Allen. Henry Allen didn't have much of a role back in the previous one, but even here there's not much per se. But then at the same time, Henry's role in this movie is very important. Why? The reason why Barry is doing all this is for his father, just to prove that his father did no wrong on that fateful night. And even and the fact that we are seeing Flash in all his glory, the fact that he can approach the speed of light and mess with time, in fact reverse time and all that. I'm so sorry, spoiler alert, but yes, he can manipulate time thanks to there's no mention of Speed Force, but thanks to his speed and everything. It's really amazing that at such a short time, Flash has been so fully fleshed out really well, and the camaraderie between Cyborg and Flash, it really goes well in the Snyderverse. I mean, if they introduce a Green Lantern, I don't think so it would be so poignant, as memorable as the relationship that has been shared between Cyborg and Flash. But it goes very well, and I can understand why Ray Fisher was initially disheartened with the initial cut of Justice League. But now this is a Cyborg movie. At the same time, this is in many ways a Flash movie too. Maybe a setup for future Flash movies as well. Because now, uh, I still can't get over that the last scene where in fact he is the one who saves the League. He's the one. The kid saves the League. It's not Superman. It's not even Batman. It's not Wonder Woman. It's not the Trinity. It's the kid who says that he needs to break that one rule and finally reinvigorate the mother box and save the League and save everyone. The psychology of Barry Allen and Cyborg is deeply rooted in their origin story, to cut it short, and we know the reason why Cyborg is so pissed, because first time his father really didn't give him much time. He lost his mother. Suddenly he's back to this world and he sees himself as the monster, and he also drops an F-bomb, and that perfectly makes sense because he had everything going on for him, man. He had everything going on for him. He was a star football player. He was a scholar, and then boom, you have this accident, and he's trusted to this new world where if what he was previously, that was nothing, and now he's even more. And yes, I would love to see a Cyborg movie, and I would love to see a Flash movie, and I would love to see these two in each other's movies. Let's talk about Batman. The Batman here is more hopeful. He is again racked by guilt because he feels that what has happened right now is because of him, because he's also stated that he's spent a lot of time in dividing everyone. So now it's his job to bring the team together because he made a promise on Superman's grave. This Batman is he is in many ways the de facto team leader for everyone. He's leading everyone. He is making sure he's undoing all the wrongs that he's done previously. There are no out of place jokes by Batman. There are no wind up penguins or that matter. There's nothing like that. One thing, aside from Batman, one thing I would like to say is that there is humor in this movie. There is humor, and it's not like the Marvel kind of humor which we kind of found in Justice League. This humor is again DC in its own way, Snyder in its own way, and it's unique and it's not forced. This is what I would love to see in a Wonder Woman movie, more of a backstory, more about the new gods and the old gods through her. And that's the thing about Wonder Woman, the fact that she is a mythological character. In fact, every Justice League character here is shown like a mythological character, but they are humanized as well. They are shown as gods. They are shown that they are gods or goddesses among us. But then there is a sense, we can relate to them because there is something humanizing about them, and that's what really works for me here. Superman is often criticized for being a one-dimensional boy scout by non-comic book readers, and people find him very plain. But let me tell you something, Snyder's version of Superman was very controversial, and the way they gave him that thing of someone who has who's been rocketed from a doomed planet of Krypton, and Earth is his adopted home. That thing really works well, of him finally trying to fit in and accepting what he is, and in the end he's given a second chance in this movie, and he finally accepts Earth as his true home. And the movie comes full circle. In fact, Man of Steel, BVS and JL, there is a Superman story, a nice Superman story in BVS and JL, although there's not much of Superman here. But then the bit where he again comes back to Smallville, he is he's meeting his mother, he's with Lois again. He is like the character is rejuvenated again through the rebirth angle works very well here. Although I felt that they rushed it too. Initially, I felt that entire death of Superman was rushed too early. Maybe it happened too soon, but it makes sense now why his rebirth, because in BVS he wasn't catching a break at all. There was a debates about him. Does the world need a Superman? And every time people are like divided on his uh, presence in the world, but this Superman is more accepting. He's taken the people of Earth as his own people, and he, in fact, can be now a true beacon of hope. And lastly, we come to Aquaman, and the reason why he's the last one I want to talk about from all the League members is because there's so much for other characters here that his arc, his presence here didn't have much of an impact as compared to the other characters. Yes, he's amazing, no doubt. And in fact, Aquaman here is Arthur Curry in a Jason Momoa kind of way, where he's full of energy and he has those badass lines. He's funny and he's like this force of nature that works very well. But I wish there was more to him. I did love the fact that this one is in many ways a little bit like the New 52 version, and an amalgam of the New 52 version of Aquaman as well as the 90s Aquaman, where he's torn between the surface world and his actual place in Atlantis. Here he's not really well acquainted with any of them. He does not be a part of any of these worlds, and he's just a lone rider. He does not play well with others, and he's also a softie, because if you notice, he's the one who says that we are asking a boy who just lost his father to do something that big. So yeah, because Aquaman does have a huge connection with his dad, and of course there are little inconsistencies with his story of how it plays out here and how it plays out in Aquaman, but that had to happen because changes were made in the movie. But yes, I like this Aquaman. Just felt that it was a little bit more underwhelming, and he didn't have much to say or much to do as compared to others. A lot of fan service in this movie as well, and I'm gonna talk about Martian Manhunter and that one scene which is obviously a homage to The Dark Knight Returns with Batman with that bat tank kind of thing. But here's the thing, the CGI for Martian Manhunter didn't really make much sense, and Martian Manhunter visiting Lois didn't really make much sense. I mean, if you just remove that element, it won't do much to the plot. Yes, the end credits scene, that worked well. Apparently, it was supposed to be another Green Lantern, but I would love to see more about Martian Manhunter with, of course, better CGI, because I understand that they didn't have a lot of time. The window of opportunity wasn't much. The nightmare scenes, we got 2 nightmare scenes in fact, and I'm going to include the Cyborg version as well. We see Superman with what seems like he's in the Batcave with Lois's remains. We see the death of Wonder Woman, the death of Aquaman, and this would really help take the story forward. And the last nightmare scene bit, loved seeing this version of Deathstroke, Mera, Cyborg, and that interaction between Jared Leto's version of Joker and Batman. It worked so well. It, even in a dystopian future, their relationship, it's so well established, and it shows how deeply connected these characters are. More of post-apocalyptic Joker? Sign me up. In regards to the musical score, I have mixed feelings because in some parts it fits perfectly and others it sticks out like a sore thumb. I would not say that it pales in comparison to the Hans Zimmer musical score in Man of Steel, since that was beyond epic and grand. I loved the crew at Warpath and the sweet sounding melody when the Flash is reversing time in the final act. The CGI or the special effects in the movie tend to be top notch and super realistic. It felt that it could go toe to toe with the likes of Avengers Endgame. In some parts, there are times when the CGI is not a sight for sore eyes and it tend to look like graphics from the PS3. However, this seems to be justified because the team did not have much time in their hands. Had there been no time constraints, I think it could have been better. Characters like Darkseid, Desart, and of course Steppenwolf are visually appealing and the detailing is absolutely perfect, while some scenes look like a bit more work could have been done. Overall, a marked improvement from 2017's Justice League. There are a lot of things that can be talked about this movie from a fan perspective, storyline perspective, plot perspective, about where the future of DC can go from here, but that is a video for a different day altogether. I love Man of Steel. It's one of my favorite comic book movies. I was thoroughly let down by BVS because of how disjointed the movie was. And initially, I did love Justice League, but after repeated viewings, I was like, okay, this is not that good at all. I didn't have much expectations for Zack Snyder's Justice League because apparently industry insiders were like, this movie is something of a hot mess, but it is not. I'm just glad Zack's vision is finally out, and I would say I was a little skeptical of the Snyder Cut seeing the light of day, but I'm happy it has happened, and it's great to see a filmmaker finally doing what he initially set out to do without someone telling him or giving him restrictions. And this movie is a victory for all of us. It's a victory for fans. It's a victory for the people involved. It's a personal victory for Snyder himself. And I would love to see where things go on from here. You should watch this movie. Don't pirate it because of all the history that it has, all the struggles this movie has. You can rent it on Book My Show or whatever. You can go for it and watch this movie, support the movie, see where it leads to. If possible, let's see if we can get a Justice League 2 or a Justice League 3, maybe a Man of Steel sequel, maybe a Batman movie further, or a mini series, or a Cyborg movie, because I think the base is set for DC and this can really work for them. They don't need to be Marvel, they don't need to be someone else. They can stick with this and it would work, because DC needs to be the antithesis of what Marvel is. And watch this movie, you would love it. That's it for today. If you do like what we are doing, do like and do subscribe and do share. This is Ren signing off.